get to the bag, ayy. Got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when the lane moving fast, ayy. Let them all cross. If they hate, then let them hate and make a bigger boss, ayy.
This episode is brought to you by SPI Logistics, the premier freight agent logistics firm in North America. For over 40 years, SPI has been diligently building the most successful freight agent network to provide first-class relationships for our shippers, receivers, and carrier partners. We are more than another transportation network. We are a dedicated team of professionals united by one singular purpose, and that is to expedite our agents' success. All of our agents are set up for success on day one, as they are provided with a full suite of support staff that is ready to assist them with everything from after-hours emergencies to financial and administrative needs on a no-fee basis. This way, you can focus on continuing to grow your business. There is no financial risk to start, and you have the ability to earn up to 75% in commissions. If you are looking to take control of your financial future and build your business with the backing of one of the most successful logistics firms in North America, visit www.spi3pl.com to learn more. Do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys, provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, because at the end of the day, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve. So you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. I got a very special guest for you guys here today. He's freight adjacent. Now, he's going to be part of the industry here, because very rarely do I hear people's speeches and presentations and have it stop me in my tracks and being like, how do I improve this? Like, I actually see this as a massive gap in my own approach. How do I improve that? And how do I, most importantly, continue to focus on the value that we have out here? And I had the pleasure of seeing him, speak at the SPI Rendezvous event here a couple of weeks back. So I want to welcome Mr. Darryll Stinson to the show. Darryll, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today.
Ooh, I need that music that you was playing, bro. You got the banger intro, man. That's what I'm talking about.
It took me like 3 years to find the right. It's like it is, man. It's like when you hear it, and I'm like, as soon as I heard it, I'm like, that's the one. I'm going with that one. I got to get it. I licensed it. I paid a bunch of money for it, but it's worth it, man.
It is, dude. That thing is banging, man.
So, Darryll, I always love learning about people's stories, man. And, learning more about your background when we were speaking and everything at the event, man. Like, what brought you to this place right here? What calling was that was like, I want to work with people, I want to help them, and I want them to learn from my story?
Yeah. So, I mean, I really do feel like I had that since 9 years old. I kind of always knew I was supposed to be inspired. I actually had this vision when I was younger. I saw myself in front of a sea full of people, and it did the opposite of inspiring me. It actually made me scared. I felt like, who am I to influence at that level? And so, I sort of kind of tried to follow that path, got really heavily involved in like the churches at the time. But the community that, I was in was, not the most integrous. And so there was a big fallout. And then I just started to question my faith. And then I went into the streets, and being a church boy didn't make me popular. So it got me teased on. And kind of the genesis of my communication awareness and skill came from growing up with two parents who they raised me joint custody. My mother had me when she was a junior in high school. My father was a high-level athlete in college. And so he was trying to chase NFL dreams. And then my mom was just trying to make ends meet. So what happened was my dad ended up being on child support, and my mother ended up taking care of me by herself. And she tried to make an attempt to go to the university. She actually was a student for a year, but they just couldn't make the relationship work. And so for the first 7-ish years of my life, I was just going back and forth from mom's house to dad's house. And I was always torn in between their communication challenges. Dad was always mad at mom because mom ended up having 2 other kids and was obviously using my dad's child support money to pay for all 3 of her kids because the other 2, father wasn't in their life. Mom was constantly stressed out, worried, mad at dad, upset at dad, never got dad's point of view. But they thought they were communicating just because they were talking. George Bernard Shaw said that the single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has occurred. And so we all walk away, we're like, okay, we're good. Everybody know what they're doing, same page, yep. And then we have the famous meeting after the meeting where we really don't know and we really didn't agree. We really just kind of gave the courtesy yes. And so that was going on between mom and dad a lot. And I started to notice that I was the mediator. And if I could just translate dad's words into dad's heart to mom, I could resolve some of the tension that I was in as a kid. And so that was the first, like, oh, I'm becoming really good at helping two parties mediate and communicate together in order to raise this child effectively. From there, it became the streets. I'm literally learned that, oh, okay, if I change the way that I talk, the music I listen to, if I give off a different persona, like I'm not a nerdy church boy, but I'm a street thug, I'm communicating a different message to my audience and therefore creating a different level of connection. If I market to them what they want, they'll like me. So I use my skill of communication to mask my insecurity on the inside. And I lived like that for all the way through college. Earned a full ride scholarship to play football. Was supposed to be the next best thing to come out of the state of Michigan. Draymond Green was ranked #1 in the state of Michigan for basketball. I was #3. And then in football, statewide, I was 79th in the nation. So I was a highly recruited athlete. I chose Central Michigan University because they were supposed to allow me to play both sports. But I was a lot better as a true freshman. Scholarship covered my football. Or excuse me, football covered my scholarship. And so they were like, you're not playing football or you're not playing basketball. We want you to focus on football. And then I got hurt playing football. And so my freshman year, I had emergency back surgery. Was supposed to end my career because sports was not just what I did. It was who I was. It was my identity. I signed a liability waiver. I came back and played for 2 years, got addicted to opioids, numbing my pain to continue to play the game of football. And that's when I finally hit rock bottom. The opioids were no longer they were no longer masking the pain enough for me to play. Coaches saw that I was abusing the opioids. I was having these frequent nosebleeds, so where every time I made contact on the field, my nose would bleed. So they kicked me off the team going into my senior year. And I went through the darkest depression of my life, 275 pounds to 219 pounds in 4 weeks. I ended up in a psychiatric care facility. And it was there that I learned that there was this whole set of communication going on that I didn't know about called internal communication, right? Our metaphysical, our mentality, our emotions are communicating to us. And I learned, oh my gosh, there's this whole world on the inside that I'm not listening to. I'm like, the way you get success is you outwork your competitor. You have the mindset of the elite. And it made me that way. But I was successful in the public eye and I was privately suffering. And that's the danger of being able to be successful without a system of self-care. And so I started to combine those modalities. I knew how to run a high performance machine with this internal sort of like awareness of my mindset and my emotions and how those influence my decisions. And I became highly successful really fast. Worked in higher education, 2 awards, internal, external communications, helping departments communicate to recruit and retain students. Won 2 awards in higher education communication, and then essentially went from there and was basically a professional speaker and a pastor for 7 years until 2019 when my TED Talk went viral, did 2.1 million views in a year and a half. And that's sort of kind of where we're at today in terms of like what I do.
Yeah, it's there's so many synergies between your background and my background, Darryll. Like it's almost like we're the same man, just different country, like
Wow.
I wasn't a high level athlete. But you're talking about the suffering and the communication. Like with me, it's like, why is mom and dad always fighting? Why can't we ever talk? And then finding ways to mask all of your internal insecurities about everything. With for me, my back went out when I was 28 years old, and pain pills, booze, everything. Eventually, it got to the point where it didn't work, and I'm like, what's going on here? And then, yeah, man, it took just massive lifestyle changes, and talking about the internal dialogue and that internal communication. That's something that I have been so focused on these last like year and a half. Like, it's been on my thoughts. Why does my mind work the way it works? What is going on? What is feeding my thoughts, and how does that go into my outputs? And it's like, you're talking about that identity of when you were younger, about the nerdy, the nerdy past church kid to how many people shape shift their identities to match their environment, and it goes against
all
who
of us.
they are as a core. And that's another thing too, where it's like, when I started my business here, like 6 years ago, I told myself at that time, I'm done faking Chris Jolly. I am going to unapologetically be myself. If that makes people not want to be around me, that's not my problem. And it's still a battle to this day, right? Because it's like, when you have that personality, and I feel like a lot of kids who grow up in an environment like similar to ours, where parents are fighting everything else, you want that attention and you don't want to upset them, because it's like, when they're calm, it's so rare. You want to bask in that moment. And then any adversity that hits, it's fight or flight that starts to come out.
Yep. 100%. Ooh, you're spot on, bro. You're spot on.
It's, it's that I don't know if it's because I'm going to be 40 here in a couple of weeks, but I've started to think about it, because it's like, man, how do I optimize everything? How do I know myself better? Because ultimately, how does that help me in all aspects of my life, right? Like, when you go out there, and, you were talking about this at the SPI event, of like, when you're an entrepreneur, like, it's the hardest thing that you do. And I agree with it. This is literally the hardest thing I've ever done. So I'm looking at, how do I optimize every area of my life? Like, I'm a mind, body, soul guy. I'm a man of faith. I believe in God, no doubt. But I'm like, I got to get every aspect of my life operating at a higher level than I never did in the past. And so it's like, that's where it's like my focus has been on my health these last like 4 years. I was extremely overweight for a long time. I drank every single day for a very long time. And I went cold turkey essentially on everything, when I got what I call the greatest blessing of my life, when a doctor sat me down and said, you have this autoimmune disease. If they just laid it all out there. And that was the thing in my head, where I'm like, all right, I'm done with everything. And I truly feel like I was blessed with that in that moment by God, where he was like, if you don't stop this, you're not going to do what I put you on this earth to do. And it took a lot of, talking about that rock bottom thing, where it's like, on the surface, man, everybody thinks you're successful, right? Division I athlete, you got a business going out there. Maybe on paper, everything looks good for the individual, but inside you're falling apart. And it's like, back to communication. What are you feeding yourself with? What environment are you in? And is that actually stopping you from progressing?
Totally. And the crazy thing is like, I said internal communication, and I was talking about, as a human, not as an organization. And that influences our external results that we experience in life big time. And so when I was doing therapy to heal from all of that, every time I would talk about a present life situation, my therapist would always somehow end up talking about a childhood incident, what that was influencing my behavior in the present moment. A lot of that was because something happened when I was a childhood, a situation that put me under stress and pressure. And then because of that, I said that, hey, when I'm in this situation again, here's what that means. Oh, that means I'm not enough to be liked or loved or accepted by other people. So I have to change who I am authentically in order to fit in with other people. That is a thought loop that is going in my mind. It's saying who I am, my thought, is not enough to be liked or loved by other people. And so how I then behave, my thoughts produce my feelings, produce my behaviors, produce my results. So that internal communication is actually what's driving my behavior. It is the thoughts that I'm saying to myself repetitively in my subconscious that is influencing my behavior and my results that I experience in life. So if we want to rewire our life, we have to rewire our mindset. And so that's a big part of communication of any kind. I work with a lot of communicators to help them, and they think it's all about getting the perfect way to describe their business, or it's all about getting this perfect "I help people do this" statement, or it's all about your unique selling proposition as a business owner. But what matters more is the congruence with what you're saying, not just what you're saying, because the metaphysical or nonverbal communication is actually more of communication. Verbal is a smaller portion. Most research will tell you that verbal communication is at most 20% of what people are listening to when they're communicating. The research will tell you it's nonverbal. But my word that I love to use, that I used earlier, is metaphysical. And if you probably heard enough speakers to hear somebody talk about manifesting millions of dollars who wasn't a millionaire.
Yeah.
And no, they could have had the best words, but there was a hollowness and an emptiness in the room when they said it. I've heard somebody sweat profusely when they tried to answer, like, "Hey, what do you do?" And they're like, "Oh," and I mean, if you read it on paper, hey, that's perfectly well written. But because it's not congruent for them, or it doesn't feel like how they talk, and maybe some like written expert wrote it for them, they can't even let it out their mouth without choking on the words.
Yeah.
It doesn't resonate with others because it doesn't resonate with them. So how I feel about what I'm saying, the congruence with the truth and what I'm saying, is a big part of what people are picking up on metaphysically when we're communicating.
How do you get that message to come through with like a phone sales job, right? And because
Yeah.
like for me, I'm not a big fan of I've never been a big fan of reading off of a script or anything like that. I believe in a framework, and then the individual comes up with their own, seemingly like their version of it. Because I'm right there with you, and I tie a lot of what you just said into like authenticity. A lot like that's like the biggest, which I think is the most overused buzzword out there is, "Oh, you got to be authentic." Most people try and be 80% authentic. They want to, because they to their environment, as opposed to drawing their line in the sand, Darryll, and like, no, this is what I stand for. This is who I am. And I think that comes out when you're speaking with somebody, right? Because sometimes it's not about the value proposition. It's the confidence in behind, do you believe what you're saying? And that can get people on the same page as you.
100%, right? So it's really the same principle, but to me, there's two dimensions. So I'll give you the top dimension and the under. The first one is connect before you communicate. Most people are worried about what they say. They're communicating from their head, not from their heart. Okay. And usually when I say that to people who really want to do high levels of numbers in business, their first fear is that, oh, okay, that's not what closes business. Like, my people buy business because of the numbers, because my A-type personality. Like, we're not for the lovey-dovey feels stuff.
Yeah.
To which I'm like, it's not about being lovey-dovey. It's not about being feely. It's about being connected to what you're saying. And I'll give you one way that we all can tell. This is the deeper layer. So if you're going to connect before you communicate, number one, before you go to your sales call, like literally just take a second, breathe for like 5-10 seconds in your nose, out your mouth, and just think about the person who you're getting ready to communicate with. Think about their day. Think about what maybe they're experiencing before they're coming into that sales meeting, and see if you can connect to what is the deeper layer of that connection, which is your intention. intention, your intention. Okay. You can feel someone's intention when they communicate.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah. Okay. Best way, you can tell a speaker that's up there to give, if their intention is to give, versus if their intention is to get affirmation, validation, or sales. You can feel the difference. You can feel about how short they are with certain things, by how they rush certain points. You can tell by how they make the offer at the end. You can feel their intention. Like, this person is intending to sell to me regardless of if it's aligned for me or not. I can feel that intention. I remember some people that run their podcast, and they would use their podcast as a way to grow their business. And I can feel that they're not interviewing me trying to get answers for their audience, they're trying to interview me enough to showcase their expertise to try to close me on the back end of their podcast. I can feel the intention.
I know what you mean.
Okay.
I know what you mean.
I'll give you another one, man. You can, in the sales process, you can feel somebody trying to progress you through a script, even if you don't feel ready to progress. They're so connected to the sale that they're not connected to the person they're selling to.
Yeah,
that's what I mean. So if you took 30 seconds just to calm down, steal deep breath, like I just said before your next sales presentation, you say, "What's my intention? What's my intention?" And don't settle for your surface level answer. "Oh, my intention is to help them." You didn't even think for 30 seconds, bro. Like, think, feel for 30 seconds. Okay, breathe. Well, actually, my intention is to why you want to help this person? Well, my intention is to help them find a solution because I know how much money they're wasting. Well, why does that care? Because when they waste money, they numb out on drugs and alcohol. Okay, so my intention is actually to help this person make a better financial situation with a provider so that they can stop numbing out using alcohol because of the lack of, success or optimization in this part of their business. Mm-hmm. That's my intention for this sales call today. And I bet you that the person you're talking to is going to feel that intention as you're leading them through whatever process you go through.
Do you think most sales, because you talk to people of all industries, do you think most sales reps only focus on their commission while they're going through the process of trying to close business, and that is what drives business away from them? Like, I've done over 1,400 of these interviews at this point, Darryll, and I've got my guests down to two classifications of people who are passionate about what they're doing and people who are paid to be passionate about what they're doing. And it doesn't matter the product or service. You pay them enough, they will be passionate about that, right? Like, they don't actually care. And for me, it's like, I think most people focus on how does this transaction benefit themselves first and foremost and only. They don't think like, hey, if your prospect actually has a solid roster of providers, why do you want to mess that up? Why do you want to throw a wrench in things? Like, if they're good, if they're profitable, that's good for that business. And yeah, it's not good for me. It's not good for my numbers, but that if your intent, I love what you said about intent and intention there, because it's so true. If you focus on the intent of because like there, with my podcast in particular, and inside of the industry, I curse on my show. Like we drop F-bombs and stuff like that. But people have always been able to look past it because the intent isn't to disparage an individual or an organization, right? And I think that when you're out there and it's like, if you truly want to help somebody, if they tell you you're good, so why are you upset? Like, why are you trying to convince them to not be like that, like they're wrong? And, it's like, that's one of those things. Cause back to your talk, when I'd first heard you about the framing of what you're saying. And it's like, I've never actually stopped to think before I made a cold call. Admittedly, I just go through and I just call. And for me, I do that because I let that self-doubt creep in if I don't. Like, I have to act because I'm one of those individuals. If I think before I act, I will find every reason to not do it. But if I act and think later, I have a higher probability of me actually doing what I'm setting out to do. Because then I stop looking for the what could go wrong, that could go wrong. Why would I even do it?
Good. So this is good. So this is oh man. I would add one step to your process then, right? The thing I would add to your process is I would say, okay, so I would add in, like, let's just say, make it 60 seconds instead of 30. So the first 30 seconds, you're still doing that intention piece. And because you need to, and this is true for me too, by the way, because I inherently don't like to sell. I don't like to sell. It doesn't feel like the best process for me. I'm not a natural salesperson. I sell because I have to. I sell because I love my work and I believe in what I do. So I too have to get into like this like energy to where my insecurities or my little boy on the inside isn't like running my sales call, but the healthiest, highest version of myself is running it. So that same 30 seconds of what's my intention, And if I'm not able to hold that all the way through and I feel like, man, I don't know, I feel like now I'm like too hardy and now it's going to be like I can't close it.
Yeah.
I'll do 30 seconds of body movement with music like you would a workout. Okay. So that pump music, whatever you would listen to lift weights is what I would listen to for about 30 seconds. And then so I take it first and I connect to my heart, and then that synergies it. And then I use the movement and the music in order to like get me out of my insecurities. So that way that heart piece still stays stuck here energetically, but I still have the motivation not to be all in my feels like that way.
Yeah.
And that helps me to stay in like powerful, for lack of better words, masculine energy for my sales.
Yeah. I think a lot of sales reps go through what you're describing right there, right? Like I look at it where, you know, I think sales and your ability to effectively communicate, I look at it as it's like it's a muscle, right? Like it's a perishable skill, and if you don't do it, because I think most people when they're out there developing business, Darryll, because like I'm very similar to you, right? I don't like to like think I'm convincing somebody to want to do business with me, and that traditional sales approach. And I think a lot of individuals struggle with that. And it's like you do have to find like, all right, so how do you quiet that voice in your head, right? Like all of that doubt, having that process. I read a really good book about this called The Alter Ego. And it's like you build up that framework of it's like, all right, I'm not that scared little boy that's getting yelled at. I'm actually this. And it's following that totem and that channel to like go through it. And it's also, I think, at times I think we also just need to give ourselves a lot more grace than we do. I think our pressure we put on ourselves for instant results, instant gratification is what probably drives a lot of the success that most people want even further away from it, because I didn't become a millionaire overnight. I didn't close 100 accounts this week. I'm a failure. I'm this, I'm that.
Oh, so good, man. Alter ego is a big one. I use that. And I would also say like, there's one version of myself that I agree with that. It's an alter ego. But there's also, because I've done some research, and if you've ever looked up like Jill Bolte Taylor has whole brain living, and she talks about how the science shows that there's really 4 distinct personalities innately to every human. And it's connected to the 4 functions of our brain, or the parts of our brain. She does it much better justice than when I'm doing it. But when I was researching in that, I started to see this alter ego that I thought I had as more like really just an expression of a personality of myself. And I could see these 4 characters that Jill Bolte Taylor talks about. That's why one of her TED Talks is one of the most watched TED Talks of all time, if not the. And so the 4-brain concept was good, because I was like, oh, this is a personality expression. And so in the alter ego side, everyone has, at the highest level, has an alter ego, even if they don't call it that.
Yeah.
And I teach this in my presentation. If you want to be successful at everything, I call it Rise to Greatness. Just study the mindset, skill set, network of the people. Okay, mindset is not how high they think. Mindset is how they think about their craft. Okay, so when I was talking to a dancer, I wasn't just saying, do you believe that you can be the best dancer in the world? I was saying, hey, talk to me how you think about your craft. What's the first thing that goes through your mind? And she says, first thing that goes through my mind is spatial awareness. So I had no clue what spatial awareness is. But for her as an expert, that matters the most to her. So I'm learning how she thinks about her craft, not just how high she thinks about herself. That's a fundamental error in the mindset industry. People are trying to think higher without thinking accurately. Okay. Good. Skill set. Okay. You can't out mindset your skill set. Everyone in sports put their hand in and said, we're going to be number 1. But not everybody worked on their skill to become number 1. You cannot out skill set your mindset.
Do you think, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but
come on, interrupt. It's your show, bro. Come on.
To talk about that a little bit further, how many sales reps don't practice their pitch, don't practice their actual craft? And, you know, I look at it as it's like there's so many synergies between sports, personal fitness, and like business, right? Because it's like, how many athletes out there and how many guys did you play with in your career, Darryll, that never practiced outside of practice, but were all-stars?
Yeah, that's true. I know.
You know?
I know.
And for me, when it comes down to, like, I think a lot of people are like, oh, I have 20 years of experience in this industry. I don't need to do any of that. I'm above any of that work. And I'm like, again, back to it being a perishable skill. Like when I decided to go out on my own and start my own business, like it didn't matter that I had 15 years experience in the industry and worked with some of the largest logos in North America and moved their freight. I had to prove it to all of because essentially the biggest, who are you? Who are you with? And it's like, I got to practice that, because it's like getting somebody to answer the phone in today's environment is a rarity. Like if you make 30 cold calls in a day, 25 people, like 25 of them aren't even picking up. You got 5 people that do. And out of that 5, they're all gatekeepers. You might get one decision maker on the phone. You got 15 seconds in that moment to captivate them to give you another 15 seconds, right? So it's like, this is why, people need to practice what they're saying, because I look at it as I say the same thing on the phone all the time, right? Like my greeting to the gatekeeper is the same as to the decision maker. And I do that because it's so rare that they don't pick up, or like they do pick up. When they do, I want to be able to, like, I got to be able to talk right away, because if there's any delay, they're going to hang up the phone on you, right? If you're like, they're hanging up. So I practice that. Like I'll probably look like a psychopath, Darryll, when I do like walk around, because like I'm practicing my pitch, and it starts with this. It's like, hey, good morning. My name is Chris Jolly. Hey, good afternoon. My name is Chris Jolly, depending on the time of the day. And it's just that basic, I try and break my call down into a flow to where it's like, here's who I am. This is why I'm calling. This is my ask.
That's me. We are the same human, bro. Like I do the same thing. I look like a crazy man. I close most of my deals out nature walking.
Yeah.
Right. It's just so much more natural. It's like I'm on the phone. I'm in the vibe. I'm feeling good. I'm moving good. Like, here we go. And I practiced a lot of stuff out loud to see if it resonates with me.
Yeah.
Because if I don't know how people, I remember the first time, especially when I went from low ticket to high ticket, like when I had to quote people on higher packages, it was like I was choking on those words.
Yeah.
And I had to get used to saying it and not having a visceral reaction when I said it. And man, that'd be a great place to start. I would say everybody would increase their sales if they recorded themselves on video next time they're doing a sales presentation or taking somebody through that process. Watch back the video and just literally see how comfortable they feel with what they're saying, how confident they feel. And then rather than beating themselves up about what the inadequacies they see, just ask themselves, why?
Yeah.
Is it because I don't believe in what I'm selling? Is it because I feel like I have to say it this way? Can I change the way that I'm saying it? Is it because I'm freaking sitting like down on my couch and I need to get up and move my body or stand and shift my state and my energy so it's easier for me to have this conversation that's hard for me?
Yeah.
All of those things go into it. And we didn't even touch on the framework that you heard at SPI, which is important because most people don't even have a frame for how they're communicating. They're just like, I'm just going to wing it. Okay. Yeah. But there's frameworks to communications that our brain can like digest more easily. Mm-hmm. Okay. So the framework I told you at SPI is what worked, what's wrong, why it matters, what must change. Mm-hmm. What's wrong, why it matters, what must change. And we talked about this. What's wrong? We have to define an unacceptable reality, man. Most people, when they ask you the question, hey, tell me about what you do, what they're really saying is, can you solve my problem? And is it worth me listening to what you do? That's what they're really asking. And that's a challenging question for an expert, especially in an industry like yours, where you're providing custom solutions for people. Because the answer to what do you do, it's like, it depends on what you need. And so give me some more about what you need. I'll tell you exactly what I do, right? And so one of the ways to cut that through is like, think about when you helped your customers, hey, what did you help them to solve? That's just like, man, if they didn't solve that, it would be unacceptable. Right? Their shipment would get dumped. Their they lose all their money, their credibility, their name, their reputation would go down. Like whatever that is, what can they no longer accept? And I almost would lead to that. But one of the things I'll do in my line, instead of being like, oh, I help people communicate or grow their business through communication, I'll be like, I help people stop. I help people who are suffering from being the world's best kept secret to no longer have to deal with that suffering. And they're like, whoa, how? Communication.
Yeah, dude. Because and that's the thing. I think we get so ingrained in our comfort of our day to day and our routines that we don't take that moment to stop and think like, what am I doing that's prohibiting me from getting the right message out there to my prospects? And how do I not sound like everybody else? Because I think it doesn't matter the industry. There's competitors, there's deep competitors in every single industry that is out there. And for me, that's my main value proposition when I'm talking to somebody is it's like, hey, I want to keep your customers because I know you have competitors in your space right now. And I do that by communicating with everybody, good, bad, or indifferent. You guys are all going to know what's going on because there is going to be things that are going to happen. There's going to be delays, but what there can't be is a delay in communication to let you guys know what is going on in that moment. So we are all on the same page. And because it's like, in freight specific as a broker, I mean, we don't own anything in this entire transaction except for our voice, except for our ability to effectively communicate. And I think it's so much easier when it's easy, right? Like everybody's great when it's easy. Ironically, most people only see the value in what you do when things go wrong and how you show up in that moment to make sure everybody's on the exact same page. So it's like, that's the thing I've been struggling with since I heard you speak about the framing is how do I package that out into a 15-second pitch to get somebody to want to listen to me?
I would package it out in 3 to 5 ways that felt comfortable for me so that the moment that they asked me, I could automatically feel which one of the 5 is going to resonate most, right? Like I try to get so good at explaining it several different ways and that I don't feel stuck by one way at all.
I think that's something I need to do because I think that I have the routine that I've always followed in my career, but there is only one way of actually saying it. There isn't multiple. And it might seem forced in that moment, right? Like, oh, you're saying this like you to everybody, and it's not natural in that environment. Nah, man. See, this is why more people in freight need to have you come speak at their conference, man. Because like for me, this is one of those things that every single sales team out there needs to, I don't want to call it master, but like you need to start thinking about this because your ability to communicate, whether it's on phone or in person, is going to be so much more valuable than most people can even put a finger on because yes, AI is real. Everybody is so focused on AI. They're not thinking, when's that time going to come when people resist technology and just want to hang out in a room together and detox from technology? Hey, phone's at the door. We're just going to sit in here and talk.
It's going to happen.
Yeah. No, and that's it, man. And I think like that's where things are. And I look at it as your ability to communicate in any level is the greatest asset you can bring to any relationship, personally or professionally. And, one thing I've been working on a lot here these last couple of years is I would rather lose somebody or something for telling the truth than keep it on a lie.
Yeah. I agree. Because then if you get it on a lie, you'll have to keep up all of the shenanigans that was connected to that lie for the duration of that relationship. But the way I said it, it's the bar for my TED Talk, but I'd rather be real and be rejected than to be fake and be accepted. It's like sort of the similar concept of like, man, if I lie or if I'm fake, then now I got to keep that up for as long as this contract or this relationship is intact. And nothing will cause you more suffering or inner turmoil like being someone you're not, like having to hold a lie and not be able to tell the truth. Like I always say, one of the most stressful times of my life is when I sold drugs, because I was always looking over my shoulder.
Yeah.
It makes sense. And to me, a drug is just a lifestyle of a lie. Like, hey, I'm one way by day, and then I'm really a drug dealer by night. And so I think the same way where people who are lying back and selling, always, misquoting and, trying to keep false margins and stuff. It's like, you got to keep up with all those little lies, all those little gimmicks. And it's a lot on your nervous system. It's probably why you drink a ton. It's probably why you're irritable with your family. And you could be less irritable, drink less, if you would just be more honest.
Yeah. I think you're describing the overwhelming majority of sales reps out there with that, because they've built everything off of and it starts with, they don't even believe their pitch because it's not their pitch. And then it just compounds from there, and it snowballs out from there. And then all of a sudden the entire relationship is a lie, and it's built on false pretenses because you didn't stop to bring it back to what you initially said. What's your intention here? Why are you calling this person? And if you can't answer that, then everything's a lie from there. You're bringing me a lot of clarity, Darryll. You're bringing me a lot of clarity.
That's good, man. That's good, bro.
Well,
that's good.
Man, I want to be just respectful of your time. I really appreciate you joining me here today. And how does anybody reach out to you to find out more? How do they book you to get you to come out and speak or anything like that?
Yeah, man. All my platforms. I know it's all on the screen and stuff, but DarryllStinson.com. Primary website. I also have tons of bureaus. Premier Speakers Bureau, Engage are usually my two top ones that book me or place me the most. You can also reach out to us direct, DarryllStinson.com. That would be the best way to go. And man, connect with me. I'm here. I'm approachable. I don't just believe communication matters. I believe communicators matter. So I care about both what you say and how you're doing. I think that matters. So appreciate you having me on, man. I love your heart for your community. I love your energy and your passion, bro. And man, I'm looking forward to doing more great work together.
No, I appreciate it, Darryll. And I agree, man. I can't wait to see you out here at more industry events. But that is going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. If you can't find Darryll, or if you want to work with him, hit me up. I will gladly put you guys in contact with him. But that is going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. As always, if you got value in what you heard and you're not subscribed, subscribe to the show, you guys. And if you're feeling ambitious, rank it on iTunes and Spotify, because if you see value, your network's going to see it as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And we'll be talking to you soon.
Came back with a bang, window down, yelling out money